Good afternoon, everybody. How y'all doing? It's Tuesday, which means it's time for the Just Gonna Say It podcast on the Dylan Talks Tone YouTube channel. I hope everybody had a great week. We sort of took the week off last week, only we didn't because we busted our tails all week. We went to Colorado and then came back. And you saw the thumbnail. We're going to talk about why a $400 guitar is or should be impossible. There's a reason for that exact number that I've chosen. There is a reason why I want to talk about it from a couple of different angles and see what you all think in the comments as well. So we're going to chat about that. Plus, we might go through some kind of comments of the week from yesterday's video because there was some real winners in there. So we may do some of that too. Before we get started, I do want to thank my Patreon supporters and my join member folks down there that would, they always helping us out with various things and various reviews and all the things that we like to do on this channel, because obviously we don't get a lot of, let's just say we don't get a lot of free stuff from a lot of guitar companies, and we don't have sponsorships from ball sack shavers or anybody like that. So typically all of our help comes from you, and we do appreciate you very much. The other thing I would like to encourage you to do is go over to DylanTalksTone.com. The logo for the website is right there, and you can go to DylanTalksTone.com and you can buy pickups. For those of you that have been waiting on stuff, because we were in Colorado for a week, we made 20-something pickups this morning. Most everything is going to ship out this week. We're really, really slamming on it and getting some things done. So, it's a pretty fun kind of time to be in the guitar space. If you have a question for me today, do me a favor and put a bunch of question marks in front of it. We will try to get to it. If you want to use a super chat, you can use a super chat, and that will pop up on my screen, and I will not miss it, and I will actually drop what I'm doing and answer that question right away. So we can do those things as well. All right. So for $400 guitar, the reason this number is there's a few reasons why I chose the $400, because anytime we talk about money in relation to guitars, everybody says, well, it's $400 worth of parts. I don't know why it has to be $3,000. It used to be $300, but I think everybody kind of knows with inflation and stuff, things are getting a little more expensive. So I chose $400. It just seems to be $300 to $400 seems to be the number where everybody's like, well, I can get the parts for that. I don't know why that guitar has to be so expensive. Which is not fair to anybody. Obviously, you can't build a guitar for $400. And so one of the reasons, and I'll tell you why we're going to talk about this, is very interesting. We have a guitar right here that was built for $400, and I'm going to show it to you. And we have a super chat. Hang on one second. Let's grab that super chat really quick. I'll take a super chat for $1.99 from Hugh Janus. Thank you so much for your super chat, sir. I do not see a question with it. I will try to, let me look back through here and see if you asked a question to make sure that we don't miss you, but I do appreciate your super chat, Mr. Hugh Janus. I forgot a message. Arg. Just keep on trucking. Thank you so much. Thank you, Hugh. I appreciate that. Here's a $400 guitar. This guitar was built for $400. Fabric top. I think it's an alder body. Maybe it's a mahogany body. I can't remember, actually. Humbucker pickups that he actually wound himself. Set neck. Relatively decent finish. Built from scratch. $400. Not a parts caster, not a kit. Cut from scratch, $400. Incredibly cheap tuners. This thing is sick. The reason I have this guitar is because one of the things we did when we were in Colorado last week was the $400 guitar building contest put on by Texas Toast Guitars. There were, I believe, 18 entries where people came from all over the country, including, and Canada. This guitar is actually from Canada. And the price limit was $400 in parts. And they were able to build for a guitar for $400 in parts. So some of them were really well executed. Some of them were, you could tell that there was not very much experience in guitar building, but they just wanted to try it. And of course, the fact that they just accomplished a thing and the guitar was playable and was very cool. There were some very unique designs. There was some stuff that was pretty well executed. Overall, it was super, super fun. And I'll try to post some pictures or something this week, maybe in the Facebook group, of some of the guitars that were built there besides this one. You're going to see this one in some videos. The person who built this guitar actually gave it to me after the contest. So I really appreciate him for that. So I have this guitar. I brought it back with me. But this was $400. All parts included. Now, one of the things that I did in relation to that contest was I kind of went around and asked a bunch of people, how much time did you have in your guitar builds? And the average, I don't want to say this is a really wide range because it's 200% of itself, but honestly, there was probably no less, for most people, there was no less than 50 hours up to 100 hours that a guitar had in it. So when you're talking about, now remember, these folks didn't have tons of experience. Some of them actually did have a fair amount of experience, but even those folks had 50 man hours in these guitars. They were needing to use, in order to stay under the $400 budget, these were really, really cheap tuners, really cheap hardware. This has a really cheap bridge on it. And it was a struggle for most people to stay under the $400 limit with all of the hardware and stuff, which is really interesting. But now let's talk about that 50 hours of labor. Who pays for that? Where does that come from? And how much would that guitar cost? 50 hours, 100 hours of labor. No matter what the parts cost, the time that goes into the guitar after the parts are purchased is astronomical. And you could say, well, the thing is most people, all these guitars now are made on CNC machines. They are. So what we did on Monday, I thought this episode through. Just going to say, I thought this episode through for all of you folks in the comments who are going to whine about unnecessary things. We got another super chat from Christopher. Is wiring a push-push pot the same as a push-pull? Yes. Typically it is. It's just the mechanical difference. You push the button down and it pops up, and then you push the button down and it stays down. To tell you the honest truth, unless you really want a push-push pot, get a push-pull. They're more durable. They don't break as much. There's a little plastic detent in the push-push pot. The little momentary, it's actually not a momentary. It would be anyway, but the click thing, it's a little ratchety plastic thing in there. And if you don't take care of that, you don't use it right, if you abuse it a little bit, or if the button is in the wrong position when you're trying to either pull the knob off or put the knob on, you can damage it and then it will never stay down. I personally don't use push-push pots in any of our wiring harnesses or any of our guitars because I don't think they're durable enough. That is my opinion. Obviously, if you want that, you can, do what you want, definitely. I personally don't feel they're durable enough, so I don't use them. So then we went on Monday, and I was part of the $9,000 Strat workshop. You probably saw some of our videos last week. Maybe some of the Instagram posts and stuff like that. And you're going to see some more stuff too. And so we went out to Maximum Guitars, and we were at this beautiful guitar factory. And basically, we made, I want to say 11, because we did some other bodies for some other people and stuff. So Steve told me he did 11 Stratocaster bodies, all identical. And it took him, I want to say 40 man hours to do 11 Stratocaster bodies just to cut them out on the CNC machine, bodies and necks. So 11 Stratocaster bodies and 11 necks, about 40 man hours, plus about 8.5 hours of sanding to do all of those over about 4 days. Not to mention the $200,000 CNC machine that you had to purchase to do that. Not to mention the hours and hours and hours and hours of modeling and 11 stages of prototyping to get the software correct to cut the body. Not to mention all of the G code that had to be converted. When you watch a CNC machine run, the G code lines are literally flying past on the screen. The amount of programming and all that stuff is unbelievable. Okay, we got another super chat. Hang on one second here and we'll get back to that. Hi, Dylan. Greetings from Norway. Hi, Dylan. Greetings from Norway. I stumbled on your videos by pure chance, and I absolutely love your content. I love how you can explain technical concepts in an easy, understandable way. Do pickups for low tunings matter? Yeah, sometimes you want to stay away from something that doesn't have real strong mid-range, because that mid-range will sort of go away anyway. So something with some strong mid-range, and sometimes they can get a little muddy. So if the pickup is already leaning towards being a little muddy, sometimes that can be a problem too. Thank you for your super chat. And I don't know, that might be your first one. I've not seen you give us a super chat before. So thank you so much. So welcome. So, literally we're talking months. We're talking months of work to get to a spot, and literally hundreds of thousands of dollars to get to a spot where it would take 40 hours to cut out 11 bodies and necks. So this is why I say there's no such thing as a $400 guitar. It cannot be done and have any semblance of A, quality, or B, well, B is an interesting one. I was looking into some knife related stuff, and this is what made me think to make this video. I was looking at some knife related stuff, and you can go to a gas station. I was thinking about this. We're in Kansas, I think, and pull into this gas station, and like this knife right here. This is Hogue. It's made in the United States. It's Magna Cut steel. Ultem scales. I just got this knife recently. What are these, like $240, something like that? Made in the United States. All parts are made in the United States. Nothing is imported from out of the country. Everything is made here. All the screws, everything. You go to the gas station, right? And then you can buy a knife that looks similar to this, right? Like it could pass off as sold by the same brand, and they're like $8.99. And you could go on Amazon and you can buy that same knife, and it will come straight from China in a box, or on eBay, and it'll cost you $11.95 to ship it here. Same thing with a guitar. You can order guitars from certain countries. In fact, we don't even need to talk about what countries. You'll order a guitar from a certain country for $400, for $299, for $199. And it'll be a copy of something else, because intellectual property, et cetera, et cetera. That's a whole nother road we can go down. And you're going to say, well, that's because the parts are cheaper there. But the reality is they're not. The reality is that the parts are the same price in another country as they are here. without getting too much, we don't get into politics on this channel, but let's just keep this very, very simple. The cost of parts, when profit is not necessary because of the monetary system in said country, and labor does not have to be taken into consideration because of the monetary system in certain countries, all of that can be now basically sucked out of the thing, and no consideration needs to be given for that. And basically what happens is a screw that costs $2 in the United States that contributes to this $200 knife still costs $2 or the equivalent in some other countries, but it's also subsidized by the financial system they're in. That's as political as we want to get. I don't want to get into we don't want to go down those roads. We don't want to get all crazy in the comments. We don't want anything of that. But the reality of where things come from is important because of how the differing financial systems work. And so the bottom line is that these tuners, this screw, is subsidized by a government somewhere so that it can show up to your house for the ridiculous cost. It is actually impossible to build a guitar for $400. It is actually impossible to have a product like a guitar that costs $200. The logistics behind the scenes that none of us see as human beings in the United States make it to where it seems possible. But when you look into how things are done, it actually is impossible. And somebody is paying. Somebody is paying. And so it's just an interesting thing to think about. It was really fun for me to objectively think about that in a couple of different perspectives. Hang on one second. I got another super chat here. You hit it on the head. Labor is the killer. If I sold my guitars for Gibson prices, I'd be making below minimum wage. I can't charge for what my time is usually worth. Exactly. So, and that's exactly right. The pin router is pretty fast, but the CNC is pretty quick. It also doesn't take a day off. No, that is really, really true. The economy of scale certainly favors the CNC. So we're going to talk about that. I'm guessing this is Matt. Hello, Matt, by the way. There is no doubt that the pin router is the sexiest tool in any shop. You're probably right. Hello, Matt, by the way. So we're gonna talk about the economy of safety of the CNC also. Yeah, Matt and I were discussing that last week. We were talking about how we got through all of the wood cutting with nobody with their hands really close, because in a lot of these workshops you can cut your own stuff out. And so Matt and Chris will spend a lot of the first couple of days just making sure that everybody's safe. And with a CNC machine, you put the piece of wood in there and you close the sliding doors, and it all happens without you having to be close to tools and stuff. So let's talk about the economy of scale. Since Matt brought it up, that is a really, really excellent point. That's a really excellent point. So obviously Don said he couldn't build a guitar and get paid what he normally gets paid. So I know what Don does for a living. I don't want to out everything in public, but I know what Don does for a living, and I can imagine that he has a pretty cool job. Most of us would say that we couldn't build a guitar and be able to support ourselves with that because we can't do it properly. Now, Matt at Texas Toast, he has done all the things to put all the tools in place and all the pieces in place to not only build guitars for a living, but to also show other people how to build guitars. I would definitely recommend that you go to texastoastguitars.com and check out their workshops. And the reason I say this is because, not because he's my friend, he is my friend. I love him to death. But on top of that, anybody, and if for those of you that have been to these workshops, they're in the comments, please speak to this so that other folks understand this. When you spend a week building a guitar from scratch, even if the body is cut out on a CNC machine, the hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and the time and the number of tools and the amount of little tools, like little files and little things, all adds up to this overall cost of doing business that definitely justifies the price of a $2,500 or a $3,000 guitar. And when you do that on your own, or when you come to one of these workshops and you learn how to make pickups with us, because we did that last week too. I will tell you, to a man, we've done 47 people and Joy learned how to wind pickups. I say 47 people and Joy because it's 47 guys and Joy. And my daughter learned how to wind pickups. So, this is $99.95 on the website. I will tell you that none of those people will complain about how much this costs once they understand what goes into it. So having some experience with how guitars are made, and what that means, what goes into it. And Terry says $3,000 for a guitar. Screw that. I understand your sentiment. I do. And you have probably a different appreciation for how things work than I do. I mean, I get it. But if you were to make one, if you were to put the hours and the amount of time, and this is what we're talking about, and understand the scale of the thing and how it works, you, Terry, would have a different appreciation for why things cost what they cost. It's a really interesting mental exercise to do. It's not just about the walking in the store and seeing the price tag. It's having the experience for yourself and understanding why that price tag is there. And also having an appreciation for what a $2,500, $3,000 guitar is. Because if you buy a $400 guitar or a $300 guitar, you're buying a government subsidized piece of crap. I'm just going to say it. If you buy a $400 guitar, you're buying a government subsidized piece of crap. That's what it is. And you could say, oh, my guitar is just as good as whatever. I mean, if you're into modern slavery, it's cool with me. That's none of my business. So let's talk about scalability. So when you buy $180,000, $200,000 Haas CNC machine, like what we worked on last week, the way those pay for themselves is they have to go 24/7. This thing is made to run 24/7. And you should also learn how to shoot Matt. I did convert to an iron sights. I guess Terry didn't like what I said because we got a thumbs down on the video. It's okay. We all have differing opinions. We do. And I just think it's really important to think about it from all different angles, right? Like, I'm not mad at anybody. I do think people are wrong on this. I think some people but it's not because they're wrong. It's not because they're less. It's just a lack of perspective on understanding the bigger picture of how all this stuff works, and that you're feeding people, that you're supporting folks. I just think it's really, really, really important. They have rifles with others than something other than rifle sights. Yeah, I mean, I think all these things are really important. So, we've talked before about like, various guitars having their cost more because they've got more cuts in them. People say like, well, this guitar shouldn't be more expensive. This one should be way cheaper because it looks cheaper. Well, the reason they have to do certain things is to take CNC time out. You see, if you have, we're talking about economy of scale. If you can make 50 bodies a day, but you change a feature that now means to where you can only make 40 bodies a day, That's 20% of your income for that day. If you add 7 minutes of CNC time, then all of a sudden, what's 7 minutes? That's 15% of an hour. So now all of a sudden you're adding 15% an hour cost of runtime. You're cutting that out of your day. That's profit that you're cutting out. So when you look at a PRS Silver Sky SE and the backplate, or a Strat, and the backplate is not set in to a cheaper one, but it's set into a more expensive one, those are the reasons why. Because when you have this CNC machine that's supposed to be running 24/7 and you add 7 minutes of runtime, because that's about what something like that would be, 3, 4, 5 minutes. But when you're talking about scale, you're talking about however many guitars an hour they can do. I think Steve's machine, he told me he could cut out a body takes about 35 minutes. So that's 2 an hour. So if you were to add 6 or 7 minutes to each body by adding a feature, now all of a sudden it takes you 20% longer. You see what I'm saying? So those things are all really important to think about. And my math isn't 100% right, but you get the point that I'm trying to say here. It's really important to think about all this stuff. And PV uses prison labor in the USA. This happens here too. Jose, I would definitely. So I saw that story and I saw that George Lynch brought that up again. I would be careful. Well, you can say whatever you want. I don't care. I'm not going to go that far because those are allegations that are very serious. And I would be careful about making them. I would like to know if it's true, but until it's true, I'm not gonna back you on that one. Yeah. Sadly, a lot of people don't care how the sausage is made. They just care about the price. That's really true. I don't care how sausage is made because I don't eat it. But, actually, I had to deal with this getting back into the office this week. We had some people like, I ordered pickups, 2 weeks ago and they're haven't shipped yet. And I'm like, this is the nature of a handmade product. We are not Amazon Prime. We do not, this is not Amazon. We make to order everything we make. We make it by hand every day for you. And that's why they cost what they cost and they are what they are. But that's why they're as good as they are. And that's why I have the confidence in the product. Same thing with the Texas Toast stuff. I have 100% confidence in the stuff that I get from them. So I would order a guitar from them because I have confidence in them, because I know what goes into it, because I spent the time to learn about it. And I think that's really important for people to do. I don't think people you're right. I don't think people spend enough time looking into it. They just expect that they should be able to get something for a cost without understanding what goes into that cost. That's really important, especially when we're talking about stuff that professes to be made by a person. And even a CNC machine still, a CNC cutout body is still made by a person. That thing spent, I can tell you, if that thing spent an hour on the CNC machine, then it spent 3 weeks making it the rest of the way. Nobody cares. I don't care. Yeah. Let's see. A lot of the price you don't like paying is dealer markup set by the guitar company. So you're posting profit margin to the dealer and manufacturer. And if you buy direct, the manufacturer gets double. Okay, let's talk about that, because a lot of people have a problem with that, like the Gibson Custom Shop. Well, guess what? The Gibson Garage, I do it too. If you buy My products are built for dealer markup. So if my products are in a dealer, I have to pay that dealer markup. But guess what? That's why I don't do it, because I need that profit. People think that is unfair of, let's say, Gibson or Fender to sell direct. Typically, dealer markup is about 40%. So they have to give that to the dealer. Now, the dealer network has to pay their employees. They have to run their business. We live in the United States. This is how it works, folks. If you don't like it, you can move somewhere else. But this is how it works. 40% of a product goes directly to the dealer as profit. They set minimum advertised pricing, like I do. You cannot undercut my pricing. That's how it works. There's laws for that. And that's how it works. If I sell direct, I get to keep that money. However, here's the problem with the logic of it's unfair for me to keep the money if I sell it direct, or if Fender sells it direct, or if Gibson sells it direct, or Martin sells it direct. They have to assume the liability of the product, because what you don't know is the dealer buys the product from them. Okay? So no, Martin and Gibson and Fender no longer own the guitar. They sold the guitar to the dealer, and now the dealer has the liability of the product. The guitar is already sold from Gibson. If they keep the guitar and they don't put it in a dealer and they want to sell it in the Gibson garage, or I want to sell the guitar or sell a pickup direct, I take on the liability of having to sell that product, which means that I take on the liability of the advertising and the promotion of said product, which is very expensive. People do not understand the cost of advertising. It is very expensive. Well, you could say, well, yeah, but you don't advertise anywhere. What do you think I'm doing right now? These cameras and the time that I spend making videos every week don't pay for itself. Like, this is the cost, the investment that I put into it, so that I don't have to buy magazine advertising. This is 2023. We do things differently. I think the old model of how products are sold and the old retail model is changing. And I think the old guard of folks who think that it should be done like it was done in the 50s just need to either, well, they're dying off anyway, so it won't really matter. But the folks that don't like that, just are going to have to get used to it, because that's how life is. We are moving on without you is basically what's happening. Let's see. I don't know. My classic vibe was 350 and smokes. What am I missing here? It's actually better than Fenders at $1,000. First of all, there's no Fenders for $1,000. Fenders are $2,000. Well, they started at about 1,500 and they go up to 2,400 because we're in 2023 now. So catch up to the proper year. And no, your guitar's not as good. The fret wire sucks. The tuners suck. And that's scientific fact. It's not an opinion. The fret wire is worse. It's softer. It wears out more quickly. The necks are not the same selection of woods because they're B stock. Basically, they're built to a price. I don't know if you know this or not. We've talked about this a lot in videos before, but when Fender goes to Squire in Asia and they say, I want you to build a guitar and I need it to be $450 and I want it to be this classic vibe thing, that's all they get to say. They say we want it to be tobacco sunburst with double binding and we want it to look like a 60s classic vibe thing. Okay, cool. Sounds good. It's going to have to be NATO wood. And Fender says, okay. If they say, no, I want it to be alder, then the plant in Indonesia or in China comes back and says, nope, can't do it. It's got to be NATO. They don't get design privileges when they're trying to build to a price. And you might not have been here for the earlier conversation about the government subsidization of labor and products and parts and stuff. So you might have been late for that. You can go back to the beginning and listen to it. It's just an interesting thing to think about all the things that go into these things. you know, you must have had a bad American Pro. I got an American Pro and it's sick. Yeah, a lot of people don't think about when I was 17 years old, I only paid 200. Yeah, well, what's that $200 worth now? You know? Yeah, it's an interesting conversation to have because again, reality is hard for some people. Reality is a tough thing for people to get used to. When life is going on and you're getting older and you're playing a guitar that you've had for 20 years and then you walk into the store and you're like, holy crap, this guitar is $2,500. Well, guess what? It's 2023. You know, I mean, it just is the way it is. And do you want to support your neighbor or not? Do you want to support small business or not? I mean, if you're selfish, that's fine. You can go buy $5 pickups. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. You know, in the end, I guess it would if everybody did that, because then I would go out of business. But I know I won't, because I know there are decent people that want to buy a Texas Toast guitar, that want to go to a Texas Toast class, that want to understand what really happens in a guitar, why it works. And those are the folks that watch this channel, and those are the folks that watch Texas Toast channel. Those are the folks that watch all the things where they're really trying to take in proper knowledge about the stuff and not just buying for a price. You know what I mean? And certain stuff you're going to buy for a price, and certain stuff you don't have control over. I mean, I realize that my baseball cap's probably made somewhere very cheaply. It's because I can't get one that is made by one of my friends. You know what I mean? I would buy everything from my friends if I could. If I had a friend who made something, and actually I do. Most of the things, even the flat work, for example, like this felt stuff, I could get this imprinted. I could get this made in China for cents, but I have it made in Ohio, actually. This is made in Ohio. I got a friend of mine who makes it, and I have it made in Ohio. So, yeah, it's interesting. There's also a timer on renewable wood sources. Yeah, that's a good thing. I think those things are going to start to even themselves out. I think, again, the old guard, I think the boomers who care about what a guitar is made out of, as those people sort of, I mean, for lack of a better word, die off, or, you know, they start to move on more into their golden years and they already have the guitars that they care about. I think people care a lot less about what a guitar is made of in 2023 than they ever have. Even somebody, let's take Texas Toast, for example. They make $2,500, $3,000, $3,500 guitars, and they are fantastic. But Matt and Chris are not afraid to say, I'm going to use poison wood for fretboards. He calls them brown instead of, whoa, is that rosewood? He's like, I don't know, it's brown. Like, he knows that wood is wood, and we can make this beautiful product, and it will sound amazing, it will look amazing, it will feel amazing, it will play amazing, made by hands in the United States on a pin router, sanded, finished, all in one place. You know, he knows that he can do that, but he also knows that he can give you a good product and not have to be super nerdy about, oh, this is wood from this particular, you know, he doesn't care about that. He just wants to make a good product. And I think those types of builders, that's going to start happening more and more and more. I think we're seeing that people are experimenting with a lot of different woods, and the people that care about those types of things are going to be fewer and far between. There's going to be less and less people. And yeah, you're not going to have a choice after a while. I bought a spruce top rosewood back and sides ebony fingerboard acoustic guitar in 2016. It was right when all the CITES stuff started happening with rosewood, and I was like, you know, I'm going to get one more. super traditional acoustic guitar, like a traditional materials acoustic guitar. I'm going to buy one more and I'm just going to keep it forever. That's going to be my one traditional one. And I've experimented with a bunch of stuff since, walnut and, well, obviously carbon fiber and all kinds of other stuff ever since then, because I just have that one, that's kind of made like a Martin. And I really, really like that. I like that sort of thing. And I think, there's a lot of people talking in the comments right now about the viability of a cheap guitar and how it is usable. And that's true. We have never lived in a better time where you could go buy a cheap guitar and it would be good. Just understand what you're buying and understand what you're not paying for, and understand that just because it's cheaper doesn't mean somebody isn't paying for it. That's really important if you are a decent human being. Remember that just because it's cheaper doesn't mean it's actually cheaper, because somebody else somewhere is paying for that in some way. If that doesn't matter to you, that's fine, but I like to point it out from time to time. Wood wood industry value scarcity is manipulated just like any other climate fear change related products. The info is not what it's cracked up to be. There is a lot of wood and it does keep growing. You're wrong. Sorry. If you would like to have a intelligent conversation about that, I would definitely be able to have that conversation with you and get somebody on the phone with us who buys wood for all of the guitar companies. It's a friend of mine. I got him on speed dial. Call him anytime I want. Who will tell you that there is some wood, a lot of wood, that is becoming more and more and more and more scarce. And it's not because of guitars. It's actually because of Chinese furniture and other industries. And it's also because of mismanagement of... We've done whole podcasts on this, so I don't want to go too far down this road, but mismanagement of regulated materials is a big thing. There's a whole story that goes along with that, which we could talk about. Obviously, there would be a whole show dedicated to that. In fact, we have that already. And I got my information from folks that actually know what they're talking about. I have friends who do this for a living, drive around the world, go out in the woods, count trees, deal with the various governments. I can't tell you things because he's told me things in confidence. I can't tell you, but it's all very real. Running out of particular species, and that's not to say that there aren't any more, but it's been so mismanaged on so many levels that it is unwise to take it out of the ground. And so we do have to make adjustments. There are things that we do have to make adjustments. It is important to talk about. Isn't everyone on speed dial? I suppose they are, right? You just like hold the button down and say the name. I suppose that's true. Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah. Wow, we even got Colorado Croissant guitars in here this time. This is pretty cool. Old guys may rule, but they're not always right. I am not a proponent of just because you're old and you think you know more than me means that you're right. And I ain't as young as I look either. I've gotten around and done a couple of things in my life, I will tell you. Old man yells at cloud. Oh, man. Let's see. The most unethical guitar possible. Harley Benton. Easy. $200. And I'm not saying that to make a joke. I'm saying that pulling in the last 46 minutes of conversation, including wood sourcing, including wood mismanagement, including pollutants to the air, including predatory business practices, including government subsidization of labor and parts, including intellectual property, all the things, all of the above, Harley Benton. I could tell you some stories. I will not, because the folks that have told me some things told me probably shouldn't talk about this stuff right now. But if you want to buy the most unethical guitar possible, that's probably it. Let's see. Yeah, I saw some Harley Bentons, 89 euros new, shipping included. Okay, so does that mean they built the guitar for $3? No. It means that is government subsidized, and somebody somewhere is still paying for that. Just get a Fender, dude. I have one. It's amazing. And I spent $2,200 for it. And you know what? I don't feel bad about it at all. It's freaking good. It's super good. Absolutely. I'm interested in your opinion on Cort. They make the most guitars, right? I don't know if they make the most guitars. They do. In Indonesia, they have a lot of plants. I think there's 5 in one place. One of them is like specifically dedicated to PRS. I think there's 5 plants in one place in Indonesia. So obviously we're not talking about good guitars versus bad guitars. Most all of these plants everywhere can make a good guitar. I think when we talk about the ethics of the thing, that's where it gets sketchy. And I'm not going to say that I don't know anything about the difference between the ethics of where a Harley Benton comes from and where a Cort comes from, for example, because I do. And I would never, ever, ever own or review or anything a Harley Benton ever. And I do own a Cort built guitar because I do have a PRS SE. So I do know that there are a lot of foreign and Asian companies who do make more of an effort in that regard, but I cannot give you specifics about Cort itself. I don't know, and it would be stupid for me to say I know, because I just don't. I don't know. And if I were to find out something that I did not like, I would take the same stand with that. I just would, And the thing is, you can look into anything and say, well, this company does something I don't like, therefore I'm not going to buy from them anymore. You can do that, but it's, I don't know. There's certain areas of life where I spend my time, and where I spend my time is knives, guns, and guitars. It's where I spend my life. Most of my expendable time is in those 3 places. So I do all my research on those few things, and I don't think I always get it right. I know I don't always get it right. And somebody will get in the comments and tell me something. Oh, crap. I got to go Google that and learn more about that because I don't know. And then I'll go down some rabbit hole learning all about where something comes from or the origin of a company or whatever. Sometimes it bothers me. Sometimes it doesn't. I really try to be as principled about it because I want to be consistent in my own mind, how I feel about things. But there are certain standouts that I just go, okay, I can't do this. And one of them is Harley Benton because if it wasn't for YouTube and Instagram influencers like myself, they wouldn't have a marketing plan. And I will never, this is one thing I am very consistent on. I will never, ever do a video or promote a product that I do not personally believe in. Some folks will say, oh, you're just a shill for whatever. If I have talked about it in a positive light on this channel, it means I actually like it. And if I don't, I will not. And if something comes up and changes something for me, I will come out with another video explaining that. 100% I will do that. I have done that. And I have no problem doing it because it's not about being right. It's about being right in here for me. Like I care about that more. Yeah, super important. I'm not a Glock guy. I don't care about Glock. Well, I'm not saying I don't have. Yeah, I don't have one. I don't have one. Nope, I don't have one. Cool. Well, I think that's about it. Top 3 guns. Like mine or of all time? If you come over to Patreon tonight, because I'm going to put up a Patreon video and I got something really fun and really new. So if you come to patreon.com/DylanTalksTone tonight, I will tell you what the answer to that. I don't typically get into those details on YouTube because YouTube doesn't like that stuff, but I will, yeah, I'll fill you in. Biased Glock hater. That's funny. Yeah. Let's see. Cool. I think that's about it. Thanks for this conversation, you guys. This has been really good. I really appreciate it a lot. These things are important to me. And I think one of the things that I really cared about this week was to be able to actually go and see it. To start with this guitar that was built for $400 if you didn't count 100 hours of labor. And then to go and say, well, how does that apply to a CNC machine? And find out that just as much work went into those guitars. And money, to amortize out, how many guitars do you have to make to spend almost $250,000 on a machine? Like, that's a big ask. You know what I mean? So to see both ends of that, and then to go to a shop where they make guitars one at a time, and then to see these guitars, and just to think about it all at once. And then I literally watched a knife video about a $5 $200 knife versus a $5 gas station knife, and the fact that the parts aren't actually cheaper, it's just government subsidized. And I was just like, man, that's really interesting to just experience and see all those things in 1 week and get this like wider perspective, even for myself, and just be like, I have to share this with you today. It's just a really interesting thing. Really interesting thing to think about. Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for hanging out. We will see you on Thursday for our live stream where we take Q&As and do all that kind of stuff. And we will talk to you later.